Molweni, Sanibonani, Dumelang, and welcome to Property Market Moves. I am your host, Kululwa Mutwa, and in this episode, I am sitting with Silindile from Sakhisizwe Property Stokvels. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Kululwa. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming through. How are you doing?
I'm okay. All good.
All right.
And yourself?
I'm good. I'm excited to have this conversation because, we know that stokvels are a known phenomenon, right, in the South African context, but property stokvel, something a little bit different. But before we get there, tell us about Silindile. Who are you?
Yo, sounds like a very philosophical question.
Hey, I grew up in the dusty streets. Tell us.
Sure, there's a lot to say. Silindile is from Piet Retief, a very small town in Piet Retief in Mpumalanga. I came here to study at Wits and really just stayed here, never left like most people.
And found gold.
Found gold, I suppose. Yeah, and I got into property, from a very early age. Through a home, we had my room. That was my first exposure, and I think really that's when I got it from that stage, and I really fell in love with it.
Yeah.
So I'm a wife and a mom of 3. I've got 3 beautiful children. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, and how was Sakhisizwe established?
So Sakhisizwe was established because, like I said, I came from a background where my room, so I got the whole property thing from an early age.
Sure.
So with me, when I started working, I rented for the 1 year, and then I was like, I did the maths, and I was like, no, but I could be paying my own property. Why am I paying somebody else's bond?
Yeah.
So at the age of 23, I bought my very first property, a 2-bedroom. And then I soon realized this property thing, it's fancy and all, but it comes with real responsibilities. So when interest rates were climbing up, I started battling to keep up with the payments. And I thought, but why am I not renting out the other room and getting income so that it can help me cover the bond?
Okay.
So then I got a tenant who then stayed with me, or a roomie. And then that's when I really started to get more intentional about the whole property thing. And then I started buying my own units. But obviously back then, you're sort of just winging it and you're going ahead. And then I bought a 1-bedroom unit that I rented out. But then for me, whenever I would drive around and I would look at malls and big office parks and all these, and I'd be thinking, but where did this money come from? Is it one person who bought this entire building? How did they do it, And then I really realized that, this thing is possible if maybe a lot of people can come together and buy it. But how, So it was just that curiosity because, with the banks, once you start taking on too many applications, now they don't want to give you more money. So I'm like, then that's when my curiosity came with, okay, so the people are buying all these malls, And so the one day I'm on Facebook and I see this, somebody posting on these groups, yo guys, there's so many of us in this group, if only we could all pop out 1,000 rand, we can buy land and that's how we'll claim back the land. And
okay,
actually, he's onto something. Stokvels, yes, crowdfunding, we all know it, our parents did it, but the stokvels that they did were very short-lived. They would, buy groceries with them, or they would just rotate the money. But now, if we take that very same concept and then we mix it with property, now you're talking, So then I took that screenshot and I shared it with my friends. And I'm like, guys, look at this. So we're like, okay, stokvels. None of us had been stokvels, typically we're like, Tina, these things are for grannies and mothers. You know? So I had never even been a stokvel. At work, they would say, let's join a stokvel. I'd be like, no, guys, but you can save in a bank account. What do I need the drama of everybody else? They're like, no, for discipline. I'm like, I can put a stop order, or 32-day notice. I don't need the drama that goes with all of that.
Yeah.
So I never really, me personally wanted to, even though I understood the benefits because my mom and family and everybody else, they did the whole stokvel thing. But for me personally, I was like, nah. But when you then combine that with the property thing, then I was like, okay, let's find out what is the stokvel thing all about. Oh, okay. Then I started doing research. Okay, fine. Let's do that. Then I started sharing on my Facebook, guys, stokvel, la 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 la. And that's when I really went down this rabbit hole of finding out what's a stokvel, can a stokvel buy property, all of those things. So as I was just doing this research and I was sharing on my Facebook, and then eventually there was a point where, okay, we feel that we've got enough to at least start something, had our very first meeting. And really that's how it snowballed.
And I mean, going back then to that, what auntie, and grannies did, having that stokvel for groceries. At the end of the year, we know macro will be pumping, right? At the end of the year when the stokvels bashera the money that they collected throughout the year. So how differently then does a property stokvel operate as opposed to that? When do people get the profit sharing?
Okay, so ultimately, a stokvel in and of itself cannot really buy property, right? Because essentially a stokvel is more like just a group of individuals.
Yeah.
So you need to put an entity together that's going to be the one that actually buys the property or invest in a business or whatever you ultimately decide to do with the stokvel. So that is what we had to do. We had to register an entity.
Okay.
That entity would be the one that actually does the acquisition. So the members become like shareholders, but in our case, we're using a trust. So then they become beneficiaries of the trust.
Okay.
So the trust is the one that goes and acquires. And so what happens is that we buy the properties, and then like in any other business, especially with property, you gain using one of two ways. So the one is through, the rental income, then there's operational expenses, then there's a profit, which is available as dividends. The second thing is through the capital appreciation or the growth in the value of the asset. So that's how then, the investment grows over time. So essentially that's how the members benefit from the stokvel or from being part of the stokvel, but we have got a separate entity that does, the acquisition, the rentals, and that operates as a business, separate to the stokvel.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, so what happens is that when we have a financial year, we look at our financial performance and we say, do we want to declare dividends? Yes or no, much like you would in a normal company. And then depending on if we've got projects that we want to prioritize, then we'll say, no, let's not declare the dividends. Let's prioritize and finish this project, or let's declare the dividends. And that decision is made at our AGM. And then if, we feel that we want to declare the dividends, then we do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I want to join, how does that work?
So the stokvel has been running for 5 years, and we have reached a point whereby we're no longer taking on new members. We really just want to focus on growing the property side of the business, and really just focusing on acquiring good assets, managing them well, so that we can actually deliver value to the members that we've got. Because when our attention is focused ngapha na ngapha, then we're not really serving anyone. So, because gaining members, doing webinars, info sessions like we used to do in the past, trying to get members, that is time consuming. So now we feel that in the 5 years that we've been operating, we have enough of a membership base. And right now, because so far we've been buying our properties cash, we now have a really good, solid asset base that we can now leverage by getting bank money. So we don't need to get new members to put in the cash. So we rather take what we've got, get loans against it, and use that to grow instead of getting new members in.
Okay. And in terms of someone then who's looking to start a stokvel, because I think that's a good way, right? Pooling resources, because we know that buying property is capital intensive. Where do they begin? What is key for them to ensure that they put in place when they establish a stokvel? Or someone who wants to join a stokvel, what should they be looking out for? What should that stokvel have?
Okay, so I think the first thing is that you need to appreciate is a property stokvel is a little more complex than just one way we're putting money and we are circulating it amongst each other.
Yeah.
Those are very simple, or the grocery ones. So with something as complex as property, you need to make sure that you understand the asset class, because if you're calling yourself a property stokvel, the emphasis is on property. So you need to understand that. And then secondly, the stokvel part it's a group of people. So you need to make sure that the governance around that is okay, that you use the correct entity, that you manage it properly, that, you know what I mean? So really, I would say before you even start a stokvel, get the right advice. So before we even officially started the stokvel, we had a lawyer advise us, and we've been working with various professionals throughout, from tax consultants to structuring consultants. We really make sure that we invest in that we've also had coaches and mentors that have guided us along the way. So if that is something that you want to do, I would really advise that, you find a person who can guide you, or the right professionals around you that can guide you, because it's not as simple as it seems. And I think because we've been at it for so long, and what's happening now is we also have other stokvels that are now coming and saying, how can we work with you, or how can you teach us what we do? So that's actually part of my next project, is to say, how can we get more stokvels involved in the property space? Because there's a lot of them that do want to invest in property. Maybe they are just a savings club, but they're like, yeah, but okay, it's a saver, but there has to be more.
Yeah.
So those are the stokvels that, I'm now working with, to say, we don't want to be the only ones.
Yeah.
We want to also empower and enable other stokvels to also learn from the lessons that we've had, because it hasn't been smooth sailing, so that they don't have to, so that we assist them to get there quicker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you've already touched on buying an entity, and that's the entity then that acquires the properties. So which means then it operates like any company, really, that the ownership vests in that. So then the members become shareholders in that entity.
Correct.
Are all of them registered?
What do you mean?
The members in the stokvel, are they registered as owners of the entity? Or
correct.
Okay.
Yes, they're beneficiaries.
All right. And how old is Sakhisizwe?
5 years. We turned 5 this year.
5 years.
Yes.
And how many members?
So we're sitting at about 200.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for those who are looking then at getting into property investment, and they know that they don't have the financial muscle individually, and they could, come through then to Sakhisizwe for lessons on how they can establish. How is it a viable? How quickly are you in a position to get dividends, payouts? That investment, how quickly does it turn?
So are you talking about if a new stokvel was to own?
Yeah.
So it depends, right? Like the sooner you can get into the entity, create the entity, buy the asset, get it going, because the transfer process alone can take anywhere from 2 months to 3 months, or even longer, depending on the complexity. So firstly, remember that you're making money from the rental. So getting the property, getting it ready if it needs any work. So getting it tenant ready, and then tenanting it, that takes time. And then collecting the rental. And then once you've collected the rental, then you do your books. And then once the books are finalized, then you decide on where your financial year end is. And then you look at, okay, this is our performance. So there's so many factors that can determine when. And I think people also need to be a little bit more patient, especially with new businesses. You can't be expecting that you're starting a business today and tomorrow you start making these ridiculous returns. So you need to just give it a patience and invest in the business, especially in the beginning. And hence I said to you earlier, when you were asking about when do we declare dividends, there have been instances where we said, let's not declare the dividends, let's reinvest
the money back.
And grow. So this has been our planting season, because you know that the harvest shall come. So you need to be just mindful of that, and say, give yourself 2-3 years, do the groundwork, do the investment, make sure that your properties are running properly, you're investing in optimizing it, getting good tenants, all of those things, instead of saying, how quickly can I make money? Properties are a long-term game.
Okay. And I know that there's always this concern, right, that when you have got a lot of voices in anything, it's difficult to make decisions. So 200 strong membership base, how easy or complex is it to actually firstly agree on the type of properties that you're going to invest in, and whether or not, those dividends are declared? So how do you get everyone on the same page?
Much like how any of the JSE listed companies who've got thousands of shares make decisions. They've got a board. They take the mandate from the shareholders, and then they implement. No different. We've got stokvel members. We take the mandate from them. Go get us good deals, make us money. They leave us alone. We do exactly that.
Okay. So you allow the decisions to be taken by people who actually know about property investing.
Correct.
And the members trust
Correct.
that the people who are experts in that space will take care of us.
And if we don't know, that we will consult the relevant consultants or the right people, the right experts. Yes.
Okay. So stokvels have become a different machine. I mean, exactly as you're saying that the grocery stokvels, they aren't as complicated, right? Because all you do is to collect money, and some of them will loan off the money and make those collections at the end of the year. The money is split and they start all over again.
Yeah.
But now with the long-term focus, then it needs to think, to be shaped and operate as a business.
Correct.
Wow. Would you encourage, having gone through what you've gone through, and I know that you are now at a season where you feel that the stokvel has stabilized, and yes, you want to empower, some, but having in hindsight, right? Would you encourage anyone who wants to start, to start?
Absolutely. The stokvel industry, it's estimated there's about 52 billion rand that circulates in stokvels in South Africa. And to your point, who are the beneficiaries of that 52 billion rand? And if you look at how, I attend SAPEP events. I was actually at that Durban convention not so long ago.
Yeah.
and the constant theme is around access to capital. But guys, it's 52 billion that are going towards groceries. So why are we not channeling those funds into investments like property?
Yeah.
And research has been done that the average Black family is in at least one stokvel. And the second statistic is that the average family spends about 1,250 rand in stokvels. And the other statistic is that people who are in stokvels would rather default on their other credit obligations, like the shops and the banks and whatever else, but they will not default on their stokvel contributions because of that, what do they call it, social something, man. It's basically, if me and you are in a stokvel and we are sisters, I will meet you at the dinner, at the family, or neighbors. It's going to be awkward. Whereas Edgar's
can't find me.
They can't find me.
They don't even know what I look like. I mean?
So now you combine the fact that there's such an opportunity of so much access to capital that just needs, and like I was telling you that I've got stokvels that are like, Silindile, we've got money, but we don't know what to do with it. And then you attend these conventions where people are saying, you've got these DFIs are saying, guys, there's money. And then you've got developers who are saying that they've got these massive deals. They just need a little bit of equity.
Yeah.
So now if we as the stokvels or as a stokvel industry can come together and say, oh, there's a development, you need 5 million, you need 10 million here. Out of, even if we just take 10% or even 1% of these billions that our parents are currently giving to these retailers, that we benefit, that we hardly ever benefit from. And you find some of them even taking money throughout the year and they're not even giving you interest.
And what kind of investments then is Sakhisizwe focused on?
What
Retail,
type?
residential?
Yes. Student accommodation primarily, but we also have Airbnb.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And naturally, again, because we know that property is so expensive, and someone who is thinking then that I can't afford to buy a property in my individual capacity, but even when I think of joining a stokvel, probably they will require me to contribute something like 15,000, 20,000, 50,000 a month. How low can the contributions be on a monthly basis?
It really does depend. It really does depend. And like I said, when we started out by buying our properties cash, right? But where we are right now, we wanted to acquire a bigger property, a commercial property, and we needed a deposit on it.
Okay.
So what we did was that we then went to one of the banks, got the one that was paid up in cash, and then basically got money out of that, which we're now using to acquire a much bigger asset.
Okay.
So if you combine, remember with the stokvels, it's just the equity that is required, right? So now if you are able, and if the stokvel is comfortable to take on the debt, now whatever money you raise, even if it's just to put the transfer and bond costs only, you just need to raise 100,000, let's say, and you can acquire R1 million. Each of you take out 10,000 rand over a year, you've got 100,000. You're in the game. You do the second year, you do the same thing. 1,000 rand a month. After 10 months, you've got 100,000. You buy the next property. You put a tenant in there. Now you're combining using the little cash that you've got with bank money, which allows you to grow your portfolio a lot quicker than having to wait until you've got R1 million in cash, which is what we did in the beginning.
Okay. So if I have an investment that I want to get into, and I have gone to the bank or a DFI, and they require equity, which I do not have, would Sakhisizwe consider being an equity partner?
If the deal makes sense, yes.
All right. And what process do you go through, to vet that transaction?
Then we would get the relevant people to assist us to evaluate the deal. We've done that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I mean, we know that this is one of the big challenges, right? Where you find that NHFC or DBSA has given you a capital, right, to acquire, but you don't have the equity. And you're saying that your doors are open and people can actually come through. And if it makes sense.
Absolutely.
And you've got the money.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. No, Sakhisizwe is a business.
Our doors are open.
And this is a shift, right? From what we know stokvels to be. Now we see it literally as a business. Okay. Oh yes. And how are the assets managed? I mean, I know you spoke about the entity, right, that does the acquisition. So in terms of the management itself, do you have the capacity to manage it in-house as well?
Property manager. Okay. Like any other business.
My goodness. All right. So this is the question then that we have. So what we do is before you leave, you're going to leave a question for the next guest.
Okay.
And the last guest has a question for you.
Ooh, that's exciting. Do they know who the guest is?
They don't.
Oh, it's a random question.
It's a random question that they just leave with us. They don't know who's going to come through. And so the question goes, come on, why is my... Okay. What do you think players in the property investment space can do as a collective to fast track the pace of funding approvals, especially in government funding providers? So what do you think players in the property investment space can do as a collective to fast track the pace of funding approvals?
So, having attended, these conventions where the funders are always out there, they always talk about how you need to have done the homework and make the deal fundable or bankable.
Yeah.
So don't go there and you think, I've got an idea or I've got this piece of land. What do you think? So do your homework beforehand. So I think if we can have industry players where, for example, that, okay, if I'm looking at a certain type of, I need a town planner, I need a quantity surveyor, I need architects, I need this and this. And somehow we all come together and assist each other, or there's a marketplace of some sort where I can go and say, I need assistance with this. I'm at this stage of the deal. I've just managed to buy the land, but I don't know what's next. Who can assist or what do I need to do? So we create that community so that it's not so isolated.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people, they just don't know where to go, who to ask. And And so by this, and so that is why you find a situation whereby money ends up not being used that's available for us. It's just that we don't know how to package the deals in such a way that they become what the funders are looking for. How do we get it ready? So I think just providing that platform or that access to those kinds of professionals where anyone at any stage of the deal can come. Like you were saying earlier, people have got the deals, but they're lacking a bit of equity. So they can come onto that platform and say, who knows somebody who can come in and provide me with X equity? And then Sakhisizwe is like, hello, you know what I mean?
We're here.
We're here.
Yeah.
So something like that.
And when they come to Sakhisizwe, we must also then come, informed with a well-packaged proposal so that it is easier for you to actually do the
due
vetting.
Diligence. Yes.
Okay.
So don't come to us and say, I've got a piece of land. Yeah, what then?
I don't have an idea. I've identified it.
So yes, it might. No, I mean, we're not dismissing the fact that you've got a piece of land.
Yeah,
good for you.
But have a sense of what you want to do with it. The numbers.
And you're approaching. Remember, when you're approaching us as an investor.
Yeah.
So you need to give us a proposal. Okay, this land, I'm gonna do this, and this is my plan for. This is how far I am. I've managed to speak to the funders. They're gonna give me X. I need X. I need Y.
Yeah.
Then we're having a conversation. Because you've done the work prior to that. That's the point that I'm making, that by that you need to understand at which stage you're at and who you need to speak to at each stage.
Okay, well, thank you for your time. That was the conversation with Silindile of Sakhisizwe Property Stokvel, and this is Property Market Moves. Now, in this platform, we aim to educate you, to empower you, to inform you, to inspire you along your property journey. Whether you're a student studying towards a property career, or you've just started out in property, or you're running a business and you want to get into property investment, these conversations are here to empower you and guide you as you figure out what your next step should be. Now, please share. When you stumble upon this conversation, share so that we can learn as a community. And subscribe to our channel. And thank you. Until next time. Thank you.
Thank you.